Some background. Our first floor is 8 to 10 feet above street level, and our bedrooms are above that. Our home is an 1890 Queen Anne vernacular on Portland's architectural register. The rising sound from idling and from the turbo-assisted starters is awful. The vibration from some engines actually creates a hum in our windows. September 2nd, 2012, we were awakened at 6:50 a.m. by 2 buses at high idle outside our door. Proper research would have shown planners the history of problems at this site even before all the businesses and activity that's happened in the Triangle over the last 2 years. Instead, the layover was moved without any notification to homeowners whatsoever. We have teamed with Woodlawn Neighborhood Association neighbors and business owners. There have been a total of 9 formal meetings since September, 6 of which were attended by TriMet personnel, including one with Neil. Whatever TriMet's reasons, I find the situation shocking. Yesterday morning, it's Tuesday morning, 6:30 a.m., we were startled awake by the turbo, and my husband was shaky and nauseous. The issue for us is very pressing. This is gross. Not to mention the safety and livability of our neighborhood, and please don't forget, the drivers need a place to pee. Footnote, true investigators coming to our areas should come in peak periods and not when supervisors have just been there. Thank you.
Thank you for your input. Right. Hector Osuna and Alex Hawk, is that it?
Yes.
Okay.
Good morning or good afternoon nowadays. I don't know if it's morning or night. My name is Hector Osuna. I'm the organizer with Hopewell Environmental Justice Oregon, and today I'm actually submitting a documentary that I filmed of a transit-dependent individual. She couldn't be here today because she needs to provide 30 days in advance to take a day off or have a sick day. So I hope that with this documentary you can see what, this is just one story of one individual in the Portland metro area that depends on transportation services from you guys. And I hope that you can, take this documentary and, use it later on as, budget season's coming up, and to make decisions that are going to be sound and equitable for, low-income individuals and people of color. So, thank you.
Mi nombre es Adela. He vivido aquí en Oregon. Viví en la ciudad de Portland por 16 años y tengo ahí un ingreso por 12 años. Yo soy de Guatemala y trabajo en el centro de Portland. Trabajo en el Standard Plaza limpiando oficinas y tengo 12 años trabajando para esa compañía ABM y trabajo en el Embassy. Empecé a trabajar hace 6 años y trabajo de bus person. Yo he usado el bus desde el año 1985 cuando vivía en la Hawthorne, en la 15 Avenida. Yo uso todo el año uso el bus. No tengo otra manera de moverme. En el hotel me dan mi horario a las 5 de la mañana y desafortunadamente no puedo tomar el 9 porque no tiene servicio a esa hora. Hay una parada del bar 9 aquí, en lugar de que yo camine hasta allá hasta la Division, debería de pasar aquí. Mira el 9, mira que está oscuro, ¿ves? ¿Ya? Aquí tampoco hay luz para que la gente se para. Cuando tú te paras aquí y si el driver no te mira, te deja. Porque no ponen luz, ¿ves? Está oscuro. Los camiones pasan no servicio, y entonces por eso tengo que caminar. Y no te voy a mentir, siempre me da miedo venir para acá todos los días. A veces encuentro gente que anda tomando. Un día me encontré un hombre que me dijo que si era una prostituta que si quería ir con él, y pues me dio miedo porque yo voy a trabajar y pues no te voy a mentir, me dieron esa ganas de llorar y uy, gracias a Dios que no me pasó nada, pero yo lo que hice fue empecé a correr y llegué rápido allá ante la gasolinera y pues gracias a Dios que no me pasó nada, pero es un peligro cada vez que vengo para acá a agarrar el bus. Como ves, aquí acabo de llegar a la Division y ahorita ya viene el bus. Y aquí, como ves, hay más personas que acaban de llegar y acaban de caminar también allá. Vienen de allá del área donde yo vengo y más adelantito se va a juntar más gente porque es gente que trabaja temprano. Pero nosotros, como venimos de acá de Powell, nos gustaría que así como viene Bus Division, mira que viene, así me gustaría que fuera Powell. Y una vez venía en el bus y le dije al driver, y le dije, yo voy a llegar tarde al trabajo. Y me dijo, si quieres, me dijo, usa el teléfono que tengo aquí y llámale a tu compañía y dile que vas a llegar tarde y que para que te crean que vienes en el bus. Y sí, sé por qué viene el señor, pero pierdo dinero, o sea, mi cheque me sale menos dinero porque pierdo lleno en el camino, porque ellos no están a tiempo. Porque yo estoy a tiempo allá afuera, pero ellos no pasan a tiempo. Una vez en el 90 yo no tenía trabajo y andaba buscando trabajo para North Portland y había un trabajo de una distribuidora de bolsas. Entonces a mí me dieron tal trabajo y yo me dijeron, ¿tienes cómo llegar para allá? Y le dije, no, yo no. Yo solo dependo de los buses para irme para el trabajo. Pusimos a hablar con la señora que me estaba llenando la aplicación y me dijo, no vas a poder agarrar ese trabajo, me dijo, porque no vas a poder llegar. Era en el desempleo de aquí de Portland, en el centro. Y pues esa fue una razón de no poder ir a trabajar. Y también iba a agarrar uno aquí en Portland. Estuve creo que se me hace que como 2 años sin poder agarrar un trabajo estable. Porque siempre miraba, no hay bus, no puedes ir a trabajar. Que yo pienso que como Gresham lo tienen muy olvidado allá. Y Gresham no soy la única persona, son muchas personas que estamos ahí esperando el bus. Y me gustaría pues que mejoraran la situación para ayudar a los trabajadores, que tenemos que usar el bus. Yo trabajo en el día y en la noche porque tengo 2 trabajos y casi no miro a mi familia y cuando llego a la casa pues llego como 1 hora y luego me tengo que regresar a trabajar otra vez y el problema es que los buses no son frecuentes y tardan mucho para esperar allá en la parada del bus, tardo mucho y luego después cuando llego acá al centro y en la noche no puedo regresar. Tengo que quedarme aquí en el centro porque cuando salimos a las 2 de la mañana no hay servicio. Entonces me tengo que quedar aquí en el centro y hacer esto, venir aquí a Subway y pasarme ahí un rato. Pero los días que trabajo en el hotel, entonces tengo la opción de ir y nos dejan ir a descansar allá en el hotel. Unas 2 horas o 3 horas para que podamos hacer el trabajo mejor y ellos saben que el bus no corre a esta hora pero ellos entienden, comprenden a la gente como yo, la gente que no tiene carro o que no tienen quien los recoja y pues a veces no es fácil, pero esto es lo que tengo que hacer a cada día. Entonces no me explico cómo es que van a cortar el servicio y se van a incrementar la tarifa. Pues yo que uso el bus a veces 2 o 3 veces en el día, entonces eso a mí me va a afectar porque yo no voy a ir y venir y pues se me va a hacer un poco difícil porque yo no soy una persona que gana mucho dinero y luego pues a veces en los fines de semana cuando yo tengo descanso porque como solo me mantengo trabajando, a veces salgo con mi familia a distraernos un rato y pues así con esto pues no creo que vaya a poder porque tengo que tener el dinero para pagar mi transportación primero y pues si no puedo salir no me puede salir y no creo que eso es justo.
Thank you.
So I just want to tell you thank you so much for letting me put on the documentary, and I hope that this resonates with you guys in order for you guys to make decisions as you move on to the future. So thank you.
Well, my name is Alex Hawk. I ride the bus quite frequently. I can't really afford gas. My round trip from school back to my house is about 40 miles in total, and I just can't afford that gas, so I ride the bus. One thing that I'm really concerned about is the fact that people who want to pay the fare cannot because of these ticket machines. I know that they are a widespread problem, but Miss Mary Fetch has still denied publicly that there is a problem. No one believes anymore that 93 to 95% of the machines work anymore. And it's not a feasible answer anymore to ride to the next platform and get off and buy a ticket at the machine only to figure out that each stop you go to, there's still a machine that isn't working. And these ticket machines are becoming a money pit. Instead of investing money into ticket machines that keep breaking, you should find out what the problem is specifically, and you should fix them so it doesn't happen again or not as often. And that's the same thing with the buses. Bus 1430 keeps breaking down, and I'm sure tons of other old buses that are long overdue for replacement keep breaking down as well. But they're becoming money pits, and like I said last time, it's much more wiser to invest in new buses, new ticket machines that don't break down as often. That will reduce maintenance cost and will save TriMet money. One thing that I'm also concerned about is TriMet's utilization of social media. I know that there is a Twitter account available that TriMet does use, but TriMet does not use it properly. There's a proper way to do social media, and social media is here to stay. There's Facebook, there's Twitter, there's all kinds of things. It's not reasonable for TriMet to send out a service alert regarding a max problem. For instance, I believe when a pedestrian was struck over at 100 East 100 something Avenue, where someone was struck by a train, and then 2 hours later there was a service alert saying that there will be shuttle buses in between those stations because someone was hit. And when people go to TriMet's Twitter account and they don't see anything, they wonder where their bus or their train is. And it's kind of sloppy for transit bloggers and for operators even to tweet about service alerts long before TriMet does. One other thing is that and I understand traffic problems, cars break down, cars stall, but the thing is that TriMet, when these things happen and people wonder where their bus is, they turn to Twitter. They turn to TriMet's Twitter account. They don't turn to the bloggers. And Transport for London over in England, they have a dedicated Twitter account specifically for bus service alerts, and when something bad happens, it's out there immediately, so riders are not left stranded wondering where their bus is. So I think it's only fair that when people go to TriMet's Twitter account, when their bus isn't arriving or when their train is delayed, that they can get a response from TriMet saying what the heck is going on. To conclude about ticket machines, I think that if you want people to pay the fare, I think it's only fair that people are given the proper opportunity to do that. I understand the whole phrase fair is fair, but at the same time it's also fair to have a reliable way of paying this fare. And in my opinion, if you go up to a ticket machine with cash in hand and you can't do that, I'd say that passenger has done their job. If they can't pay it and then they get a ticket, that's not very fair. So I don't think people should be set up to fail with these faulty ticket machines, and I think TriMet is wasting their money by dumping money into ticket machines when they keep breaking. So that's my 2 cents.
Thank you, Alex. I appreciate your comments. Really do. We know that's an issue. Yeah. The next two are also from the Woodlawn Neighborhood Association Woodlawn area. We have Mark Hoskins and Tom Powers.
Mr. President, board members, Mr. General Manager, I'm Tom Powers, Woodlawn neighbor. I moved to Woodlawn because I found it to be a very, very intentional community. And I'm here today just to talk about the process by which Line 8 has been rerouted to circle the historic Woodlawn Triangle and some of the neighborhood's concerns with that. Before, the Line 8, as you know, went up to, I've submitted written testimony, I'm not going to read it, but basically the high points of it are that, Jubit's Travel Center has been an ideal place for the Line 8 to lay over. They appreciate the drivers there, and it's actually a place where large vehicles can be accommodated with relative ease because it was built exactly for that purpose. Woodlawn Triangle is probably the worst substitute for that for a number of reasons. It's a neighborhood with somewhat small streets that don't necessarily accommodate large buses very well. The grid for the street, as Angela mentioned, is similar to Ladd's addition, so it can be very confusing to navigate. And the addition of exponentially more buses on the streets, whether they're circling the triangle or idling on the side of the street, has made that more difficult to navigate for people who are familiar with the area, as well as for folks who are trying to find their way to the new businesses that have popped up. And I think the bigger point is that Woodlawn has undergone a transformation. It's a community that has done a lot of work in terms of planning to be an intentional community, a place where neighbors can congregate, especially in the center of the neighborhood, in the Triangle area, where we have new businesses, new places where people are congregating. And as Angela noted previously, we didn't get a lot of notice about the rerouting of Line 8 to basically inundate Deacon Street, Madrona Street, as well as Durham Street to just be filled with buses, and that's changed the nature of our neighborhood, transformed the character of our neighborhood in a way that we feel, we feel that the process has not been adequate to justify that change, and we're asking for the board and for TriMet to restore the Line 8 layover route for that terminus to go back to Jubit's Travel Center, where the buses are ideally situated to lay over. There's a place where folks can use the facilities, they can get a bite to eat. There's business stimulated that way. We value public transit very much in our neighborhood. We're well served by the lines that come through Woodlawn, the 8 and 72 and 6. I think that's right. But we want to make sure that the process by which the line has been relocated to circle the triangle is done in a fair way, and that it doesn't transform the character of our neighborhood. Thanks.
Thank you. Please go ahead.
All right. Thank you, folks, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate your time. Take a few minutes to be here to also echo a lot of the comments that you've heard earlier. Try not to repeat much. I do credit TriMet and its employees with the fact that they have finally, after all this time, recognized that the problem is real and the problem is urgent, and a change needs to be made. Now we're at a point, and I'm extensively on record all the way along in different forums, but as far as where we're at right now, the solutions that are being offered to us are not adequate. They are a lateral move that simply moves the problem to a different location, and even in the 100% form of the solution being offered from planning currently, increases the impact in our neighborhood by routing buses down Ainsworth, a beautiful parkway with historic homes and trees that is extremely narrow. Even currently, an oversized vehicle has trouble negotiating if any sort of an oversized vehicle is parked on that street. It's extremely tight. There's not room for a normal size, even compact car, one cyclist and a parked car to coexist on that roadway. There's not room for buses. There's not room for a bus to make a right-hand turn off of eastbound Ainsworth onto southbound 15th Avenue as would be necessary under the plans that we're being asked to accept now as mitigation and remediation of our problems, which are immediate and which you've heard about. We're talking about lost sleep, and that's real for me too. I don't live right there, and I thank God every morning that I don't wake up at 9th and Deacon with buses outside my door. And when we first started talking about this, I'd say September 7th, a meeting in the park, which became a larger meeting only due to the fact that we neighbors decided to come gather and meet TriMet there, who were called out just by these one neighbors. And we said, look, no mitigation is going to make this right. Move it back, move it out somewhere, and please do as soon as possible. On September 19th, TriMet attended our Woodlawn Neighborhood Association and told us that the timeline for a change to be implemented would be December, early December. That's what we were told. At that point, oh wow, that sounds great. You know what, that's really reasonable, and thank you for doing something now, because the winter, with the increase in idling, the increase in hazardous road conditions, all of these things, all of these issues that we've confronting are getting worse every day as the darkness comes down, et cetera, et cetera. And so we're living with this. They're living with this. I live with this in my work environment every day. And every day during afternoon peak hours, I want to be somewhere else. It's hard to be there now, because the physical difference between 75 to 80 buses a day, maybe stopping at the stop or maybe just going by, and that's just the number 8, by the way, not the number 75. And I've never had any complaints. 2.5 years I've been there. I've had no complaints. I appreciate TriMet, but I don't appreciate the way we've been treated for the last 3 months. We've been patronized and strung along by TriMet staff, even up to Mr. McFarland. And again, I appreciate your efforts, and I appreciate that there's a fiscal rock and a hard place. This demands immediate remediation, immediate urgent action. And we know that there's $10 million contingency fund that gets set aside at the beginning of the year. 1-2% of that could go a long way for us to get one more bus back on that line, to allow time, as the ATU has asked for, allow them time, allow those drivers time, the face of TriMet, allow them time to go to an appropriate location, to relax, take a break, use the bathroom, buy a snack at an affordable price. I feel for them too, and I'm here for the good of the drivers, the riders, which are not being served by this, and for our neighborhood, which, again, we're being asked to wait and wait for a solution that is not very tenable. I'm sorry I've gone over time, and I do appreciate all your efforts. Please, whatever you can do for us, and I'm sure we'll be in touch, if a real solution is not put on our table soon. Thank you.
I suspect that'll be the case. Thank you so much. That's good. Maybe we can ask the general manager for an update on this if you want to do it now.
Well, what I can do right now is I can provide you, sort of point to you our latest correspondence, which is yesterday, to Mr. Hoskins and the Neighborhood Association. And I've been out there, and as Mr. Hoskins noted, I've had a chance to view the situation, meet with the neighbors, as of our staff many times now, as referenced. It is a difficult problem, but I would remind the board that the changes to line number 8 were responsible for about $500,000 of our $1.3 million in bus operations cost savings that were part of the overall budget solution last year. So it's a difficult problem for us because it is a very big fiscal impact. What we would be doing if we were to run the buses all the way up to Jubitz would be, we'd be duplicating service where the number 6 is, and we'd be serving a tail of the frequent service number 8 line that is not efficient, i.e. there's not a lot of riders on that last stretch of a line that aren't otherwise served by the number 6. So it's not an efficient move. So what we want to do, and what we've been working to do, is to make as many mitigations as possible, and the correspondence does go through what we've been able to do to date and the solutions that we've been able to come up with. And we do believe that there is a better permanent solution, which would be an off-site a layover potential that might actually even serve another line or 2 that serve Northeast Portland. So we're continuing to work on it, and the service planning to continue to look at this. There's a series of other ideas, including some layover at the other end of the line, which is up on Markham Hill. The problem there, of course, is if you're familiar with the Line 8, it actually is a loop, and it serves first the Veterans Hospital and then our HSU complex. And so where in the loop do you put the layover becomes a difficult question. We'll continue to work it. We'll continue to work it, but it is a big fiscal question, and $500,000 of ongoing expense was, I think, is a difficult problem for us. And I guess I would just come back to the big picture, which demonstrates how hard it is to make reductions in service. I mean, we've seen some evidence of that in this testimony. We also have a petition from our line 12, line 94 riders who are affected by the change as well. So we know that that's very hard. We know that's very painful, and that's why, frankly, those budget reductions or budget balancing last year really minimized service reductions, believe it or not, compared to what it could have been otherwise. And with that, we'll be happy to keep you updated, and we'll continue to rack our brains about ways to solve this problem that are affordable for TriMet over the long run. And I'm very sensitive to the neighbors' concerns.
Neil, is there a timeline? Because it is frustrating to be told a time and then it continues to go on. So even if it's not a solution that people may want in the end, to know that this is, you know, where we stand, I think would still be better. Is there?
Yes, and remember that our service is on sign-ups with our operators, so our schedules need to reflect any changes, generally need to reflect changes. And so obviously December sign-up is here, and so too late for that, so the next opportunity will be March. And that's what we're aiming for in terms of changes for that. And I might note that the 40% solution that is referenced in some of the correspondence that you have on this, which moves a great deal of the layover to another location, which is also adjacent to a Walgreens and across the street from Safeway at Ainsworth and MLK, would also allow us to move the idling and the layover during the early morning hours and late night hours. So our hope is that it's only during those peak hours that there would be the need to use both layover zones. So we think that that is a pretty good temporary solution, but we recognize that it's temporary and that we really need a more permanent location for that.
I'm not understanding the March. Why would the wait till March?
The wait to March relates to the sign-up related to our operator schedules. But the other part of it is that we have work to do with the neighbors and the city and others in terms of actually establishing that zone for layover in that new location as well. So there's both aspects of that. Carrie, would you like to add anything else to that? Our service planner, Carrie, who's been working very hard on this problem.
The time frame issue?
Yeah.
I think you said it quite well. The operators have signed for the work that they're doing in December, and so what we have to do is get ready for the March sign up.
And we can't make that any sooner.
Very difficult to do that under the current circumstances. So, and part of that is the constraints of the union contract.
Part of it is we have to create paddles and route descriptions, then operators sign for those routes, and the schedules are, it's a pretty intricate process. So while we are able to do like a slight reroute, which we've created for an emergency restroom type of an option for our operators, we can do some minor tweaks, but to actually physically move an entire line and change a layover, it is complicated. And as Neil mentions, we also have a lot of outreach to do with where we're going, so we don't have a whole nother group of people in here with the same kinds of issues. So March really is the first opportunity I think to do anything major.
Okay, well, board here is as you can see, understands the issue, concerned about the issue, and we're looking to staff to figure out what we can do.
We'll keep
in the
working
most expeditious way possible, but we also understand the cost savings. Just going back to where we were and adding an additional $500,000 of cost is probably not the right solution. So I guess I would, on behalf of the board, like to appreciate an update on kind of a regular basis where we are on this.
So I don't fully understand all the complexities. I do realize they are complex, however. To the extent that we could give not only the board but the community regular updates, I think that would be the first thing. And maybe within those updates there could be, first step will occur, I'm just theorizing now, the move to the Rite Aid Safeway location on, let's just throw out a date, 12/15, whatever the date is. If that's part of this interim approach, and then that by January 15th or February 1st, there'll be community meetings in the area where things will be relocated to. If it's you said near OHSU, you would actually reverse the.
Put the layover at another end, and that may not be, that's also probably likely a partial solution as well.
I guess what I'm saying is, I think people, not just the board, including staff, operators, would like consistent updates with some benchmark dates associated with those. And I'm sure that's what you're doing. I'm just saying, given the amount of attention this has been provided, let's elevate that communication.
Appreciate that, we will do. And I would note that Clay Thompson, who's our outreach specialist related to the summit, has been doing that for the neighbors involved on a weekly basis, and what we know is
With those specifics, thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Okay. Moving on, the last person signed up is Chris Walker. Chris? You want to talk about the Rose Quarter lift transportation issues?
A couple of weeks ago, I was at an event at the Coliseum, and there was also a Blazer game going on at the Rose Garden. Now, normally at special big events like Blazer games or PG Park events or different, if there's a huge city event, you have people designated to help out at the Max light rail platforms. What I am wondering, because unless you're really aggressive with buses and cabs that are along the cab stand and the lift area where the buses and cabs come, you can miss a cab and then you're stuck out in the cold as I was for another hour or hour and a half. And so I'm wondering, I know we're tight on budgets and everything's been made evident and everything, but is it possible to have somebody out there with a phone that can communicate back and forth? Because a lot of times people, at least I and maybe others want to use it, sometimes don't have the cell phone to get a hold of dispatch and figure out, okay, what cab's picking up, you know, when there's a bunch of cabs and some are trained for lifts, some aren't trained, and it's hard to know, and then they sit there and then you're supposed to come to them, they think, and no, they're supposed to come to you. So it's kind of a hard thing, and I've written to customer service about this too, but I'm just wondering if the people with disabilities can get the same treatment as the general public, with some representative from TriMet to help with that situation. Because it is a frequent one, according to different people that I've talked to with disabilities who take the lift, who work at the Rose Quarter.
We may have to pass that on to our customer service staff. Thank you for bringing it up, Chris.
Thank you for coming, Chris. Appreciate it. So that's the end of the list I have for people who wanted to speak under the public forum. Have I missed anybody here this morning? Okay. I guess I just wanted to say, Hector, thank you for giving us that video. I think it's fair to say that the board, understood that the necessary cuts we made in service and increase in fares was going to impact people. As you just heard, we have a petition in our package from over 350 people wanting to restore service on the line 12 line. So this is an issue that we know that was going to occur as a result of the difficult choices we needed to make. I guess I hope that when you come to us, you talk about what we can do to actually reduce our costs, because right now our labor costs are driving the reductions in service, and without getting our benefit costs, frankly, for our employees in line with the market, we're going to continue on the road to reduce service and further rate increases, which is not what we want. And so we would appreciate some help and some understanding and also some support from OPAL in terms of helping us make those changes to allow us to to get our labor costs in line with the market, and to allow us to actually have a sustainable budget, because we do not have a sustainable budget. And without us having this under control, the people who we go to seek increases in funding for transit service are very unlikely to support that. So we need you to be an advocate for that as well. So again, when you come back to us again, talk to us about some of the solutions and how you're going to help us in dealing with some of those basic underlying problems that we're having to deal with financially. And then the other thing I would say to you is I thought the video was really good, because we had a retreat yesterday which really talked about some of the major issues that you're dealing with in that video. It isn't just TriMet in terms of the issues that are there. The person you made the video about, I saw, used to live at 15th and Hawthorne. I assume that she probably can't afford to live in 15th and Hawthorne anymore. So that moving folks out further from employment centers is really tough, and I think there's a problem, an issue that we as a region need to address there. The other thing that I saw is the darkness and the unpleasantness of the unfeeling of not being safe walking on the streets in southeast Portland is an issue. In other words, pedestrian safety. We need to have our local governments partner up with us to provide safe areas for people to walk, so they feel comfortable getting to the bus stops and getting to transit. And then I think the other thing that we really talked about a lot yesterday is just the real cost of the travel, the commute for folks, like the person you outlined in that video, is something that often we don't think about, and I know they think about it. And so something that we need to figure out how to factor in terms of frankly, the cost of housing, I guess, because I think there's some real benefits to helping people be able to live close to where they work. And so we've got a number of folks that we need to work together to solve the issues that you identified in your video. So I think it was a good video, but I hope you realize it's pointing the finger at a whole bunch of issues that we need to deal with as a society and as a region. So I'm sorry, I just wanted to take a moment to get down here, because I thought it was a good video, and it was helpful to see from that woman's perspective what she has to deal with. Yes.
Thank you, Bruce. Very well said, and I won't be as eloquent as you are today in summarizing what we've done for the afternoon yesterday, continuing this morning. I've sat on this board, I want to say about 7 years, and there are days that are more difficult than others, and I think today is one of those. I got here, looked at the agenda, and thought, wow, we don't have much to approve today. We'll be out of here early. And yet there are 12, 14 people that got up and spoke, and I guess it does not fall on deaf ears. I feel sometimes like we're looking out at the crowd with just this expressionless face, and we do hear you, we talk about it. We have a retreat like we had yesterday where we spent an afternoon. The governor's office was there. We continue to meet on these issues, but there will continue to be problems and issues brought up. Michael, you made the comment that you wouldn't have to listen to this if you could just solve these things. This is a huge transit entity, and I think a very successful one, but we need, as Bruce put it, people like you, Lane and Alex, and those of you who have been here for years, helping us. And we are listening. The problems will not be solved overnight. My heart goes out to this lady here. I can't imagine. And we will be talking with staff about how to get to some of these problems more quickly. Finally, I just want to say to you, Michael, I'm very sorry, and my prayers are with you. Thanks.
Anything else? All right. Thank you. We'll conclude the proceedings today. Thank you.